Hey guys, this is Dash from Ninja Land Games. Video games nowadays are a true advanced art form. As such, we need to analyze and look at them in a way that has deep philosophical and symbolic meaning to it. A lot of these creators, the game designers, highly educated people
who have ideas they want to express through the art form of video games.
The views in this video are my personal opinion, and they're based on a full playthrough of Bloodborne. These views could change as more DLC comes out. Don't expect it to be perfect, but I'm gonna give my attempt at trying to analyze everything that's going on in this game. Anyways, I'm just putting this video out there, hopefully to spark some thoughtful and further analysis of this game, and also just to bring respect to the art form of video games, which I feel like is one of the advanced art forms we have nowadays. So as we go along in this analysis, just try to think about why the game designers did what they did when they're creating this game and what they're trying to invoke in the player when they're playing the game. Not all of the things might be intentional, but a lot of the things in video games nowadays, especially with a highly regarded developer such as FromSoft, is they will put a lot of details in their games, and they are definitely trying to portray certain ideas symbolically and also just make things fun to play and cool to think about. So a lot of the ideas, they might not be their personal opinions that they actually have in real life, but they're ideas that they think are cool or make the world an interesting place. And lots of times in movies and games, the opening and ending scenes are really important for establishing the theme of the game. So we're going to be looking for that as we go along. Alright, so let's do this. Welcome to the Bloodborne Full Analysis, Part 1. So immediately we see, at the first cutscene, we see an old man, like we're on a table or we're talking to him as he's sitting down. Most likely we're in a clinic of some sort. And it says, "Oh yes, pale blood." Obviously, your character is asking this old man about this, but we didn't see that previously in this scene. We don't quite understand the idea behind throwing you into the situation with this character is to create mystery, kind of almost confusion in the players so that you don't know what is going on. So this opening scene with this old man, he mentions that there's healing property in the blood and that you've come to the right place, and this assumes that your character has some kind of cursing or some kind of disease that he's trying to get himself cured, and so he has come to Yharnam to seeking some kind of help.
And then in this line he also mentions that you're an outsider to Yharnam. Basically that's just establishing your character as an outsider. Kind of makes you mysterious, but it's really just to leave you up to the imagination of what kind of person you are, since you did create your character. And then in the next line, he then says you have signed and sealed. So there's some kind of contract that you signed with this guy, and we'll see this in a little bit, what that means. Now you're going to get a transfusion of Yharnam blood. In this line he says, you may think it all a mere bad dream. In this phrase we see the first theme of the game, which is dream state. We're going to go over the different themes there in this game, but they all tie into early 19th century folklore, mysticism, and sci-fi. So the first theme we get, the clear theme we get, is the dream state. After this cutscene, we're not even sure if the rest of the game could be symbolically taking place within your head as well. There's a lot of symbolic things within the game. They're suggesting that it's somewhat of like a psychological battle that someone is having with disease or some other kind of aspect of their life. Man versus beast is another theme. And the idea of the man versus beast is actually somewhat of something that's psychologically happening or something that was within your head. Now within the game world, the things that are taking place within the game are actually taking place in Yharnam. When you're in the hunter's dream, that is part of the dream state that you're in. But there's the nightmare realm that gets unlocked or that gets unleashed on Yharnam. And so that's another reference back to the dream state. And ultimately this game, it paints a picture of somewhat of a dream state kind of atmosphere where these epic and huge things are happening, almost as if it's like a dream. And the way that it's presented is to make it seem as if we can't tell what is the line between reality and the dream world. So that's one of the big themes of Bloodborne is dream state. And now let's get on to the other themes that we got going on in the game. Okay, so this first scene here, when you went into a dream, you're getting the transfusion of the blood, and then we see a big pile of blood, and a werewolf is coming out of the blood. This is another theme of the game, which is the man versus beast. It has to do with tainted blood. And so the Yharnam blood is actually tainted, and it's turning people into beasts. As we know in the storyline, all the people around town are turning crazy, and they're turning into beasts. But this blood that you have taken is actually tainted and is trying to turn you into a beast. And we see as this werewolf is coming out of the blood, it's a representation of that. It's a representation of this beast-tainted blood coming at you. And then the beast suddenly bursts on fire. The fire is, as you read in the different lore of the game, is a purification of the beast, and it is like as if he was being purified. And we're like, okay, why did he just burst in fire? And then we see these messengers that are coming up here on your body. The messengers are the messengers of the hunter's dream. So the hunter's dream somehow contracted you, and therefore the tainted blood of Yharnam is not affecting you, and the purification fire represented that. So in some way, the blood was being purified within your body, and because of the fact that you contracted with the hunter's dream, basically these messengers want you as a hunter. So you're being selected to basically, withstand the Yharnam blood so that you can hunt. Now, these messengers are very similar to different types of messengers in folklore. We have, for example, there's a movie called Princess Mononoke. It's a Studio Ghibli animation. FromSoft and Studio Ghibli are both Japanese companies, but these messengers actually remind me a lot of the spirit-type messengers in Princess Mononoke. Actually, Princess Mononoke deals with similar issues of man versus nature, and also has the theme of tainted blood within that movie as well. It's just kind of a connection between Bloodborne and Studio Ghibli. But these messengers also remind you of those spirit-like messengers that the main character sees in the forest. And it reminds me of that. Also, you have cherubim, who are messengers of the gods in mythology. And these are obviously a twisted version of kind of a messenger idea. And what they kind of provide for the story is kind of interesting little kind of comic relief, I would say, or a humorous kind of tone to the game. I mean, they're kind of grim, but at the same time, it kind of is something that you end up seeing. I mean, they're in the messages on the ground and stuff. And so it's kind of reminiscent of a homely feel, which is what the hunter's dream is actually, is a kind of, or a hub world or a home place for you to abide in. It's just an interesting connection that we have from Bloodborne to Princess Mononoke, both Japanese art forms, both Japanese style, and I feel like the creators of Bloodborne, if you think about it, they're Japanese. They grew up with shows like Studio Ghibli shows within their home. They grew up with watching Princess Mononoke when they're very young, and this kind of thing influences their art as they go along. Okay, so the first note that we see is a note that says, "Seek pale blood to transcend the hunt." And the key word in this, I believe, is transcend. It doesn't say conquer the hunt. It doesn't say get through the hunt, endure the hunt. It says transcend the hunt. Now, transcend is actually reference to transcendence, which is an enlightenment kind of mentality where we're talking about someone who is overcoming a problem, but they are actually embracing it while overcoming it. The transcend the hunt, I think, is a reference to the man versus beast theme within Bloodborne. It's more to do with the mind and enlightenment, enlightening your mind past the beast-like nature of your body. And so, yeah, there we have another reference to man versus beast and the transcending the hunt. Now, seek pale blood. We don't even really find out what pale blood is in this game, but it is really just this whole note is about transcending the hunt, I feel like. Yeah, the man versus beast theme. Let's talk about that, because in that first scene we see the werewolf coming out of the blood. And that is the first sign we see of man versus beast. And like I said, it has to do with the man versus beast is within internal struggle between the beast-like nature of man versus the higher intellectual ways of man. And so we see in the enlightenment version of man. And we see that throughout the whole game. We have different characters who are descending into a beast-like nature. And then you have your character who is trying to transcend the hunt. They're trying to transcend the beast-like nature that's within them. And we see of many examples as we go along. We're going to go through these. It's one of the themes of Bloodborne is this man versus beast Also, it's an outward expression, as in actually physically you're fighting these beasts. It's man versus beast in that way as well. And of course, the first enemy you see in the game is that werewolf. It's not that particular werewolf that you saw in the dream. And let's talk about werewolves. Werewolf is mythology that's passed down. The man versus beast mythology. It's much like the knights slaying the dragon. It's the same kind of mythology, which is dealing with man versus the internal beast. And you actually see this mythology in all sorts of video games. You can see it in Naruto, the beast within Naruto, and he's fighting it. And you have Sasuke, but Sasuke represents actually the cognitive dissonance or the cognitive battle, the struggle between the cognitive, and Naruto is the struggle between the beast side. I mean, just look around and you'll see this mythology being spread around. So the werewolf, for example, does represent all of that. And, the story of the movie, Universal Pictures Werewolf, and also is based on different mythologies, but it's basically the man that turns into the wolf. And it's usually at a full moon. A full moon is basically dealing with urges within the body, and how those are tied to cosmic forces. And we'll see that as another theme in Bloodborne is the cosmic forces. They are different mythologies of the 1900s. It also goes into, like as I mentioned before, H.P. Lovecraft sci-fi. And it's not just Lovecraft, because Lovecraft was actually a product of the time. There's many writers writing about the same kind of horror or mythological things at the time. Basically, you're starting out in a doctor's room. It's a scientific area. Bloodborne has kind of the style, I'd say, late 1800s. But one thing we want to talk about is the Quicksilver Bullets that you have to shoot with. And we know that, the silver bullet is supposed to kill the werewolf. But the Quicksilver, actually, silver is a home remedy. People thought that that colloidal silver, you can look it up, people think that it purifies your blood, and so that is why supposedly the silver bullet kills the werewolf, is because it's purifying your blood. And so it's this idea once again of tainted blood, and really the idea of tainted blood is just another idea of man versus beast. The fact that we are living, the blood that's within us, is one of the things that we are fighting against, one of the things that we are struggling against. It also would apply to someone who has a disease, like your character, who maybe has some kind of disease that is within their blood. And so the idea of Quicksilver and the silver bullet is another tie back to all of the stories of werewolves being the purifying of blood. It's another man versus beast theme. Okay, then we have the Hunter's Dream, and we have the lamp posts that you find throughout the game. Of course, those are just to be able to see them in the game, so you can see the checkpoints from a distance, but also it is a light, it's supposed to be somewhere where you're going in your mind. Talk about that, the light versus the beast, which is a theme that's throughout a lot of mythologies. Light represents intelligence, or your soul, or your consciousness, and also easy way to see in the game, and it harkens back to something good. And so when you're going to the Hunter's Dream, you're like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere good. This first scene where you go into the Hunter's Dream, basically you're awakening within the Hunter's Dream, and you see the house with the doll, and basically it's just going to be a homely kind of area, and you have a guide, you have the hunter Garam. Basically he's explaining to you what the Hunter's Dream is all about. We know Garam from the lore of the game was a hunter, and so as we can tell through the game, all the hunters experience this dream. The Raven Hunter, she actually mentions to you the doll, and so she actually experiences this dream as well. But within the Hunter's Dream, we see a note that is really important. It says, "To escape the dreadful Hunter's Dream, halt the source of the spreading scourges of beasts, lest the night carry on forever." It says, first off, that it is a dreadful hunter's dream, and that's because your mind is kind of trapped within this hunter's dream, and it's representing the struggle that you have with the man versus beast parallel. So it's this hunter's dream that you are stuck in because of the battle that you're having internally. The source of the hunter's dream is the beast. Of course, we know that. That's the beast nature, or whatever you want to say, man. And least the night carry on forever. So you're supposed to halt that so that you can be enlightened and overcome the night, so that the light can overcome the darkness kind of idea we have going on here. And within the game, it makes sense because you're trying to beat all the bosses and you're trying to make it through, right? But also the fact that it says the night carry on forever is the clue that we have that this is talking about some kind of internal, and this is all symbolic. It's all just symbolic of this internal kind of thing that's going on. And so it's a struggle for enlightenment and getting out of darkness. And it's an interesting note within the game. It's the fact that it's in the Hunter's Dream is kind of an interesting thing too. Okay, next we have the NPC that you're talking to right outside of the lamp. And he talks about, basically, the gist of it is he's talking about the Healing Church and how the Healing Church has the control and power over the blood ministration. There's some loose ties to religion and stuff, but it's not, I don't think that that's the main idea behind it. Basically, they're trying to say, you know, the Healing Church is the source of all of the kind of blood type technology within the world of Yharnam. They control the different types of blood ministration. It's almost as if it's like they're the science and doctors and religion kind of teaming up. Within the city of Yharnam, the Healing Church kind of is playing the role of religion, but it's more of like the lines of society or government because it is the thing that's ruling the area. And we can see how throughout the city there's different hierarchies and whatnot, and so it's more to do along with the social hierarchy and how that becomes a control in the healing process for people. And so the main message behind it is that the organizations that are around, they try to control the healing properties of the pathway of healing. And we see how they interfere and actually mislead people in their quest towards being healed. Governmental or societal practices within the society. And so, you know, we see how that's kind of is tied into real world politics and stuff. So then we actually, as we get into the game, we start fighting some guys on the street here. We just see how basically these people of Yharnam are just degenerating into beasts and they're going crazy, trying to kill you. They're burning beasts at the stake and things. And so, all right, so we're at the first boss, the Cleric Beast. Notice how it is named Cleric Beast. Basically, this was some kind of priest or cleric of the Healing Church. And actually, if you go into the lore, you can find more details about that. Basically, yeah, he turned into a beast. And actually, we get some clues that this was one of the first hunters of Yharnam. But this first boss just serves as, you know, the man versus beast scenario, kind of just a playing out of it. You know, it's a horrific battle that you fight. It's very cool. It's stylized. Very, very awesome art design for the character. The fire hurts him, as we learned before. You know, fire is the purification of the animal beast nature. You use your Quicksilver shots to kill him, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll have more analysis of all the symbolic and philosophical meanings in Bloodborne. And you know, this game is really rich with all sorts of symbolism and things. And you know, this first part we went over the different themes of Bloodborne and some different ties it has to other references in culture and history. And so let's keep exploring it. And if there's anything I missed, I'll try and cover that in the next video. And we're going to go into other aspects as the game progresses. Things change, and we'll see the different kinds of historical references and aspects that they're alluding to. Yeah, so please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Hope you really enjoy this, and we're going to have more to come, and see you next time.